Manchester United are the champions of Europe again.
Hello and welcome back to the One United podcast. I'm joined as ever by Henry. Henry, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm fantastic, mate. You?
Yeah, I'm good. Good. Looking forward to the upcoming game. Now we've got a bit of a new series for you here on the channel. We're very excited to bring it to you. We're joined by Ryan Quinn again, the tactical magician that he is, and we're basically what we're going to do is once a month we're going to pick sort of the best game from that month and really tactically analyse it for you and really sort of go or take a deep dive into sort of how the game played out. So Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Good. So, we'll kick things off. Obviously, I think the big game last month, in November, has got to be the Southampton game. I think it's a game not many fans were expecting to win, and yet we got a very good result out of it. So, just from the offset, Ryan, obviously we did come out winning 3-2, but we'll head straight to the start. So, how did United set up, sort of in terms of formation and personnel?
Well, it was interesting because United kicked off with a diamond, which had both Van der Beek and Fernandes starting. So you had Van der Beek alongside Fred in midfield, and you had Fernandes at the tip of the diamond, and then you had two split centre forwards with Greenwood and Rashford. And the early stages of the game oversaw the shape work really well because it was getting around the Southampton press, which is generally quite good. It's up there with the best in the league. Leeds, Brighton, Liverpool all have good pressing stats, and as do Southampton. And I think also United actually pressed well themselves. It overwhelmed the home side in midfield as Southampton tried to build up. So you had almost, because of the diamond shape, it was almost a 4-4-v2 in midfield. Kind of overwhelmed Romeu and Ward-Prowse at times. And I think the 4-2-3-1, which is United's main sort of setup, it doesn't really offer that at times. So I think the diamond, from a pressing point of view, was really a good choice. And I just think the kind of pressing was really effective from the offset. So you had both sides were trying to press high, but United did well also to evade that press that Southampton were trying to offer. So there were some nice passing combinations, one of which led to a really big chance for Greenwood, of course. So you had a 1-2 between Van der Beek and left back Alex Telles on the left, and then Telles had the space to dribble inside as Van der Beek's movement towards the left dragged Ward-Prowse wide, and then Greenwood obviously made a run across from the right side on the centre-back's blind side, and then with the centre-back, it was Vestergaard, not paying full attention. The pass was able to be played through to Greenwood, and with Alex McCarthy, the goalkeeper, coming out, Greenwood had the space to dart into the box and shoot, but obviously he just hit the side netting. So it was a big chance that United could have taken the lead, but obviously didn't. It was, and obviously I think pressing led to a second chance as well after the first goal was conceded. So obviously McCarthy was trying to play out from the back, but the pass went straight to Greenwood upon being pressed, I think, by Fernandes. But both Greenwood shots and Fernandes' shot on the rebound were saved by McCarthy. So it was a lot of chances in the first half that came from pressing and beating the press. The pressing was a key theme of the first half, which United were actually winning, in my opinion. But I really just touching on that, I really like how Van der Beek and Bruno Fernandes both started, and they were both really good in the first half. And they both really, they bounced well off each other for me, at times. So yeah, it was very nice, and I think it's also showing how versatile Van der Beek is. So I think there's been some criticism from fans of playing Van der Beek deep. So I think when United lost to Istanbul in the Champions League, Van der Beek played deep. He played in the double pivot. But even when he does, he's still one of United's better players, and I like that. So he can play as a diamond, as an 8. He can play as a number 10. He can play deeper. So there's a lot of options there when you play Van der Beek. So it's quite nice.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It was nice to watch as well, that sort of link up between Fernandes and Van der Beek. It's nice to know that that could potentially work because it's not something we've seen consistently from Bruno and Pogba, is it really? But we've elaborated on this press a bit then. So I don't think that's something we tend to see much of from United. I could be wrong here, but just from like a casual viewing point of view, it's not something we tend to excel at. So, you know, who in that United squad was sort of the leading force for that press? Was it Van der Beek? Was it Bruno? Was it Fred? Because I can't imagine it was Matic really with his sort of lack of mobility.
I think it was a combination of all three. I mean, Van der Beek and Fred. I mean, Fred's obviously known for his work rate off the ball, but Van der Beek had a lot of that too. And I think I had never really picked out Fernandes as being one who's a keen presser off the ball, but obviously the chance that I mentioned just now, Van der Beek was pressing Fernandes was pressing from the front, and it's kind of like it's not a matter of they can't press. It might be the tactics in the game, but it was in specific games. But I think it was a combination of all three. To be honest, I don't think one in particular was leading it. You might say Fernandes because Fernandes is playing at the top of the midfield, and obviously he's closer to the defence, and we're trying to press high. But I think it was a team effort for pressing.
Right. I was going to ask a question about we touched on how obviously we were losing 2-0 in the first half, but I don't think we've really touched on. Do you think it was a success in the first half? Tactically for Solskjaer, because obviously I know we were losing the game, but as you said, we were pressing high and had chances. So would you say it was kind of a success? If we had come out of that 0-0, would it have been a success for Solskjaer, or was it anyway?
I say United were the better side in the first half. I mean, if you look at Southampton's goals, they both came from set pieces. So the first was a corner. It came from a corner. So obviously Ward-Prowse played a corner in, and Rashford didn't track Bednarek's movement, and Bednarek headed it in. But obviously, these situations coming from set pieces, I don't think it was a result of the system. But what I would say is that for the second goal, it was a costly free kick to give away in a really dangerous position. So obviously, Fred fouled Gineppo, who's actually very, very good in 1v1s and dribbling. For me, in ball carrying, he averages 2.35 dribbles per 90. So for every 90 minutes, he completes over 2 dribbles, which is a good value. And I think against United, he completed 3 dribbles, or 3 take-ons, and obviously Gineppo's dribbling forced the foul from Fred, and then obviously Ward-Prowse's free kick was brilliant, and it was obviously too far into the corner for De Gea to prevent, and obviously in the process of De Gea got a touch onto the ball, and it was a good effort, but De Gea's injured himself in the process, and he had to be replaced by Dean Henderson. But I think that was his first Premier League start for United, or first Premier League appearance for United, I think.
Yeah.
And I think if you just look at those goals, I want to talk about Southampton as well as United here, because I think Southampton's attacks are all about, or a lot of it's about the wide midfielders dragging the opposition defence inside, or at least dribbling inside and giving the fullbacks the movement to provide the width. As you could see as Gineppo moved in, Bertrand bombed down the flank. But I think the key factor in both goals was obviously James Ward-Prowse, who's so good from set pieces. I mean, he's much more than just a free kick or corner kick specialist, but I think it's a quality of his you just can't ignore. So he's created 15 key passes or chances created, whatever you want to call it, but 8 of those are from set pieces. So over half of the chances that he's made for teammates have come from free kicks or corners, and I think that's only bettered by Aaron Cresswell, the West Ham centre-back or left-back. He's been playing as centre-back this season. If we just digress for a moment, I think that's been very good for West Ham. And I think what's funny as well is that 3 of Ward-Prowse's goals have been free kicks. I think he scored 2 against Villa. So I think that's that's the 9th time only that a player in the Premier League has scored 2 free kicks in one game.
Wow.
And so that means that Ward-Prowse has 4 goals this season, but he has only 0.6 xG. So that means based on the shots that he's had that have resulted in goals, less than you would only expect less than a goal based on the shots that he's had that have resulted in goals, if that makes sense. So he's obviously very, very, very good from free kicks. But what I think that shows is that even though Southampton weren't necessarily bad in the half, I think United were the better side. But I think that their opportunities, they came from situations that weren't necessarily a fault of the system United had laid out. And I think that sometimes what that shows is that scorelines can sometimes be a bit misleading. So it's very good from Southampton to get those 2 goals, but I don't think that the system was the issue. But a change was needed, of course, because United weren't being clinical enough. And I think there may have been perhaps a lack of movement in the box, which is why Cavani came on. And I think that oversaw a change in the shape, but it was not necessarily a standard, switch from a diamond to a 4-2-3-1, for example. I think it was a bit more loose and fluid than that. And I think these player movements varying across the attacking third resulted in a really good second half for United.
Fair enough. Sorry.
Sorry, touch on soon because obviously Cavani was a real difference maker, and a lot of movement from United's attackers resulted in a good second half performance.
Yeah, definitely. I was just going to sort of touch on that. Obviously, it goes without saying the qualities James Ward-Prowse has. I think he's sort of proven that David Beckham would still be a good player in this day and age, wouldn't it? I don't think.
Oh yeah.
I think that sort of playing style has passed the test of time. But yeah, we mentioned that changes were needed at half time, and a change was made. Obviously, Cavani replaced Greenwood. Now, why do you think Greenwood struggled so much in this game? I might have sort of blindsided you here, but is there any particular reason? Because, it does seem like Greenwood can produce a moment of magic out of nowhere, but he does seem to go sort of missing quite often in games. And then suddenly he has that spark of brilliance, and that's it. Do you think that's sort of the case where he doesn't get into games? He's more of just a sudden impact player?
I'm not honestly too sure. I think it's maybe... obviously, Greenwood had a fantastic campaign last season. He scored 17 goals. But I think one of the things is that I think from last season, Greenwood played a lot off the right, and I think a lot of the kind of goals that Greenwood scored, they were kind of similar goals. And I think I think defenders have maybe found a way to defend against Greenwood. Maybe it's a matter of just a forward being out of form, because obviously all forwards have that. They have stages where things just don't go well for them. Because I think on any other, it may sound like a cliche, but any other game, Greenwood could have easily scored that chance he had in the first half. And obviously he's only 19, so I think it might be a case of form. It might be a case of defenders finding a way to defend against him. It might be a case of I'm not sure Greenwood has. I think Greenwood played in the diamond against Leipzig. He played up front against Leipzig, I think, and obviously he played well there. But I think it might just be a case of it not being his day more than anything. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to overanalyze. It might just be a case, as said, of just not being his day. Because I do think he's very clinical. He can last season, whenever he had a real chance on goal, I just expected it to go in more than any other player, honestly. Obviously you had Rashford and Martial, who were very good last season, but I just think just the way Greenwood strikes the ball and everything, I just always have faith in him having to go in the score. But yeah, again, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but it might just not be in his day.
Yeah,
might just need a confidence boost. He might just need that. Honestly.
Yeah, definitely. I think it goes without saying he's a very special player, isn't he? You always have confidence when he's got the ball inside the box. But yeah, just moving on then, that change was made, wasn't it? Cavani was brought on, and we sort of carried on the way we left the first half, sorry, and that we were on top. But what did Cavani offer differently to Greenwood that meant we could sort of progress in this game?
I think he's a number 9 purely. So I think with Cavani, you had someone on their own up front. You had someone who could really hold up play and bring others into play. and you also had somebody whose movement is second to none. It's fantastic, and that means movement in the box. That means movement, maybe peeling wide, and dragging opposition players out of position. He's so intelligent. I mean, it's the kind. I mean, people keep bringing up his experience, but I think you shouldn't really be saying just that his experience. You should be saying what the qualities are as a result of his experience, which is his movement. Movement, if I can say that. And I think Cavani made a very good run into the box when United had a chance early on in the second half. So Van der Beek pressing again, regaining the ball, and that led to a quick attack. And I think it was Fernandes whose ball in behind the defence set Rashford free, and Rashford went for goal. Probably rightly so, seeing as he's a forward, he wants to score goals. But he had the opportunity to set up Cavani for a simple tap in. But obviously Rashford shot and it was saved. Another save from McCarthy. But I think I'd also like to touch on how the shot kind of Rashford had. It's kind of like almost kind of a trademark Rashford shot. So it's a shot like a sort of an angle, and he's trying to curl the ball into the bottom left corner. So yeah, maybe Rashford felt like he had faith in himself to score, but save from McCarthy. But it was just another example of Cavani being in a really good position to maybe receive a pass and shoot himself. But I think the clinical edge really started to come in for United when Fernandes pulled a goal back, and United obviously had won the ball towards the halfway line, and Fred did really well to hold off some challenges and released Wan-Bissaka, who then passed to Cavani, who had pulled wide. And Cavani's cross, it was quite low, and it met Fernandes in the box, who obviously had the room to move into the box as Cavani had pulled wide, and he slotted the ball home. So that makes the score 2-1. And United from there on just started to force more and more pressure in Southampton's half as the game wore on.
Do you think that's what sets Martial and Cavani apart in terms of what they are as players? Because Martial at the moment obviously is out of form, but he doesn't seem to be as clinical as Cavani. Do you think Cavani's better suited to this United team with the way he's kind of a poacher?
In a sense, maybe for a game like that, maybe for a game like against Southampton, where you really need someone to really take the initiative and pounce on situations. But I think Martial is also a very clinical finisher. Maybe he lacks the, if we're just putting it simply, movement in the box. But I think the more options United have, because United didn't have someone like Cavani last season. They didn't have somebody who peels off defenders so expertly, and who's basically a fox in the box but works hard. So I mean, you think of someone like Ruud van Nistelrooy, who was a fox in the box, like always in the right place at the right time. And then you have someone like that in Cavani, but I think Cavani, as well as being so clinical, he's got such good defensive work rate as well, which many of United's attackers, strikers. I mean, Rashford, I think last season was given a lot of leeway in not having to track back as much. But I think like someone like Cavani, you have someone who's so mobile. I think Carl Anker wrote a piece for The Athletic. He's actually written one or two now on Cavani, just citing how mobile he is and how effective that's been for United when he's played. So I think, just setting those two apart would be how mobile Cavani is. I think it's the movement that's really helped United at times.
Yeah, I think that's sort of obvious to see, isn't it, from up above, watching on TV anyway. But just obviously we'll mention his goals in a second, but just to sort of go back to the initial substitution. So with Cavani coming on, was there any sort of change in system with that United team, or did it sort of stay fairly similar and we just sort of stuck to our guns?
It stayed fairly similar for me. I think it was a bit more loose in the second half. By that I mean there wasn't as fixed a formation as there may have been in the first. And the reason that I kind of thought that was because I started to see Fernandes. So obviously in the lead up to that Rashford chance, the ball was played from a very wide position. And Fernandes started to drift wide. He started to play towards the left a lot in that second half. And then you had Van der Beek at times advancing into the box ahead of him. And I kind of like that. I kind of like that fluidity in attack. It wasn't so. You might argue it was a 4-2-3-1. You might not. I don't personally think it was. I don't really think in attack at least there wasn't that much of a formation. I think personally, like when your team has the ball, it's more about player movements and combinations rather than a specific shape for me. Because it's obviously when a player makes a run and a player might move elsewhere in his place, formations don't tend to stick the same way because of obviously players moving into different positions. Obviously, you want organisation within that, but I don't really think United had as much of a fixed formation in the second half, and I think much of that is owed to Fernandes drifting out wide to the left, to the right, and Van der Beek being able to advance into the box and Cavani floating around as well. So it wasn't as fixed for me. But I do like the idea of how throughout the game you had Fernandes and Van der Beek playing together. Hopefully in due course that can happen more often. Hopefully Pogba can fit into that as well somehow. Because I just think that when those three play or a combination of the two, you have United creating a lot more chances. You just do. It's as simple as that. And I think the more, if you play one of them, you have to rely on them solely. So a lot of the time you've seen United playing with just Fernandes as the number 10, which is kind of like a lot of the time it's been if Fernandes plays well, United play well because the game runs through Fernandes. But then if Fernandes doesn't play so well, United are less likely to play well. And that's an effect of playing through a number 10 because all your chances go through them. So I think I like the idea of the attack being quite fluid in the second half, and there being more than just Fernandes on the pitch in the creative sense. Because I don't like the idea of relying solely on one creator or one goal scorer. I think just to bounce off that, I think one of the reasons I've liked Martial and Rashford scoring goals and Greenwood is because you haven't one out and out, like one standout goal scorer. You have a few, and I think that's always a good thing for a side to have. So yeah, it wasn't. To answer your question there, Henry, it was or James, sorry, it wasn't as fixed a formation as it was in the first half. So yeah, sorry.
It's all right.
Do you think then that contributed to sort of the way we played? Because obviously I was surprised in the fact that Southampton, obviously protecting the lead, they set up in a bit of a low block, didn't they? And yet we still found quite a lot of space in that midfield, didn't we, to sort of play the ball about and still create chances. So do you think that was sort of a result of this sort of more fluid shape?
Yeah, I think Southampton, obviously they were pressing high in the first half. They dropped off in the second, and I think that United reacted to that by obviously having more opportunities to attack. They had obviously more opportunities to move the ball about in Southampton's half, and I think that benefited United. I mean, usually United, as I've said a few times before, United have at times struggled against deep defences, but here with someone like Cavani, you have someone who's hard to track. You have someone who's hard to mark, someone who reacts to situations well as well. So obviously you have the equaliser where Fernandes had a shot on the edge of the box. It's been deflected. And I can only, in my head, I can only imagine Cavani in United's team reacting in the way that they did to get on the end of that deflected shot. And it's just, I think as well as, so obviously that means it's 2-2 in the game now. But as well as having more opportunities in Southampton's half because Southampton have dropped deep, you have a striker unlike maybe Martial, who's who's able to create situations for himself with his movement. So yeah, it's things like that. Movement creates passing opportunities. Movement creates space for yourself, and Cavani has that in abundance. So I think sometimes against deep defenses, when they drop to form a low block, Cavani can be really effective in against those sorts of setups.
I just want to ask you ever so quickly, Ryan, if that's okay. You mentioned about Pogba and Fred and Van der Beek and Fernandes potentially playing in a diamond. Obviously, that formation for you and for me, by the sounds of it, works perfectly for this kind of side. Do you think that Pogba and Van der Beek and Fernandes could play with Fred in that midfield and it would still be balanced?
Maybe not with Fred. I think the reason maybe not with Fred because Fred, for me, Fred has been used as a single pivot, but I don't think it suits Fred. Fred's another very mobile midfielder. Fred's keen to press. He's keen to close down, which sometimes is the cause of his downfall, as you could see. He gave away the foul on Gineppo, which resulted in Ward-Prowse's free kick. And obviously there was a situation in the PSG game. But I think Fred's a valuable option, and I like him as being a sort of midfielder in games where United maybe need to be a bit more compact, like alongside McTominay. I think they always bounce off each other quite well. I think they form a good partnership. It didn't. It was a bit hit and miss against PSG. If we're just going to bounce to that, but I maybe not Fred in that deeper role if United were to play diamond with the remaining three. I think there's been some calls for United to sign another deeper midfielder. I mean, Matic. I like Matic myself, and Matic obviously may have some fuel in the tank still, but I think he's of a certain age now where you may need to start thinking of replacements. I like McTominay as well. It may be a case of if you were to have Fernandes, Van der Beek, and Pogba in a diamond with a deeper midfielder, maybe not Fred. For me, I think the best option if you were to play those three would be either McTominay or Matic. Probably Matic. But yeah, those three. If when United really need to create something, especially late on in games, maybe you could have maybe not start with those three, but you maybe have one as a late substitute. But if you were to start them as a three in a diamond, I would play Matic instead of Fred at the base.
Yeah. Right.
Fair enough. Now, obviously, we mentioned the second goal, and obviously there was a little bit of luck involved, I'd say, maybe with the deflection and everything. Obviously, great play by Cavani, but with the third goal, I don't think there was any luck involved at all in that, was there? I think that was definitely one of the better goals we've scored this season. So do you want to just sort of walk us through it?
Yeah, so obviously Fernandes had won the free kick. I think it was Fernandes. I should know. But Fernandes took the free kick, and it was a quick pass to Rashford on the left. And Cavani's made a run between two defenders. And Rashford's picked out that run. And he's played this dipping cross towards the near post where Cavani's ran towards. And it was a really well-worked move. Really good technique on the delivery from Rashford, and it was a really well-timed run from Cavani. So it's not just about making the run; it's about timing the run as well. And I really like the sort of run that Cavani made because, again, so Henry made the comparison between Rashford, between Martial and Cavani, and I like both of them, but Martial for me wouldn't make that sort of movement consistently. I think of the situation again from a free kick against Manchester City last season, where Fernandes has played that quick free kick into Martial. Obviously in the 2-0 in the win at home 2-0. But for me, Martial doesn't make that sort of movement that Cavani does consistently, and that was a really, really good piece of movement from Cavani. It was a really well worked move and a really good pass from Rashford. Rashford, I think, had been in and out of the game, but that moment really helped United seal a very good win. And based on that, it was a really, really good decision from Solskjaer to bring on Cavani. 2 goals down, even though United were, in my opinion, the better side. And Cavani helped turn the game around for United, and it was a much-needed win. Much-needed win.
Absolutely, yeah. I think I was surprised by the XG stats. I don't know whether it was over the course of the game or just the second half, but I think Southampton were like 0.5 expected goals to United's 3, and yet we had to nick a last-minute winner to beat them. But just to sort of touch back on that final goal, obviously you mentioned Cavani made a run in between the 2 defenders. Now it might be a bit of a silly question. I'm just not entirely sure on it. So, what about that run in between 2 defenders makes it so hard to defend?
So I think one was on. So I think it was on the blind side of one defender. So obviously the defender can't see. He doesn't have eyes on the back of his head, just to put it in layman's terms. And Cavani's obviously made a run between 2 of them. He's not marked, and that run, I think it's almost a case of instinct as well as anything planned. Is that Cavani's seen the run. He's obviously noticed what's going to happen before the defender has. And then obviously Rashford has picked up the pass. So I think it's a mix. For me, it's a mix of planning, maybe something being done in training, and Cavani's instinct in the box, and being able to outwit the setup that Southampton had in the box against United set pieces. So it's a combination of those 3 things, and I think it's kind of why Cavani's been a very effective signing so far. So I was a bit sceptical, maybe not of the signings themselves, but the fact that they were made quite late. So obviously Van der Beek was done early, but then Alex Telles and Cavani were signed quite late. And as much as I like Cavani, it seemed a bit of a panic buy to me at first. But obviously, so far, at least, I've been very much proven wrong with that. As much as I like Cavani, I've been proven wrong. Thinking it was a bit of a panicky signing because it's been so needed, such a needed signing so far because of the profile of centre forward that he is. It complements United's other options up front. So yeah, it's very welcomed and very, very much needed win again against Southampton, who are a good side. Who I think they sit 6th in the league at the moment.
Yeah.
And obviously, I think it's worth praising them as well because I mean Southampton have not been an easy customer at all for some time now. I think they did very well to stick with Raphael Hasenhüttl, and fair play to them. But very, very good to get a win against them at their ground after they really outplayed United last season, towards the end of last season, with their own pressing game. So yeah, I wasn't expecting too much positives coming from the game, but a lot of positives from this game. Even after going 2-0 down, a lot of positives, and kind of a bit undermined by the result in the Champions League, but again, very, very good result. Yeah,
definitely. Now, they were top a couple of weeks ago, weren't they? So you can't give them credit. Ralph Hasenhüttl's really sort of transformed that team, hasn't he? Now, we're at full time now. So, Henry, have you got anything else to ask?
I was just going to ask in terms of going forward. We've been so critical of Solskjaer. Well, I certainly have at times, maybe wrongly so. But do you think this formation, the diamond, is the way to go forward? Because the 4-2-3-1, it doesn't seem to work for the players that we've got. So do you think that going forward, Solskjaer will try and stick with this and maybe it works with the players we got?
Quite possibly. I think it kind of works in that it suits the range of midfielders United have. And obviously the lack of out-and-out wingers United have. So obviously you have fullbacks and strikers drifting wide, providing width, and obviously you have this quartet that kind of it does bring in more creativity from United's midfield. You have Van der Beek and Fernandes at least, which I like. Sometimes it may be you might need something more Maybe something that would maybe nominally provide more width, but it's been used almost sporadically so far since Solskjaer's tenure. The diamond, it's not been the top choice. Obviously, the 4-2-3-1 has, but I very much like the diamond. I like when it's been used. It was used obviously in the Champions League against Leipzig. It was used against Southampton. I like it. So I mean, I wouldn't be too concerned if it became the first choice shape for United at this moment in time. So yeah, I like it myself as well.
Perfect. Sorry, I just wanted to ask.
Fair enough. Do you think the diamond sort of requires the Alex Telles type of fullback as well then? Because he said there's not much width, and obviously he's a very good attacking fullback. He can sort of double up as a winger when we're attacking as well. So do you think that not only requires him, but it sort of complements his game as well?
In a way, it obviously gives him more room to provide that width. But obviously, I do think what I'm about to say is quite an interesting topic, because obviously people have been trying to make comparisons between Telles and Luke Shaw. I think it would suit Luke Shaw as well. Honestly, if Luke Shaw was ever if Luke Shaw comes back into the fold. I think Telles is the better crosser, which United have, to put it bluntly, lacked from fullbacks. I think Wan-Bissaka's improving going forward, but I think more improvements needed. I know it sounds harsh, but
that's true.
Yeah. But I like how United now again have more depth at left back. I think Brandon Williams. I've liked Williams at left back, but Williams is right-footed. Williams isn't. I think Williams is a right back. He's right-footed. So in a way, I'd like to see him deputised to Wan-Bissaka at right back more often, seeing as Dallow's on loan at Milan. I would like to see Dallow come back. I wouldn't want him to be sold on permanently, because I think I was having conversations with people last season, and how if United were ever to play a diamond, Dallow would perhaps be a better option there than Wan-Bissaka in a way, because I think Dallow was very good going forward. Maybe a bit lacking defensively, but offers quite a bit going forward. So I think having those range of fullbacks of kind of differing profiles as well again. I think Shaw's passing can be quite underrated. And he does provide a lot of width when he does play. He's obviously I think in recent games, even take the Istanbul game, he actually assisted Martial with a cross, which is in a way ironic, given that hasn't happened very often. But an interesting stat as well, speaking of headers, I think Cavani's scored 2 headers for United now, and that's the most headers I think in the league United have, like from an individual player, has scored. I think Lukaku was second with 2 since like the 18-19 season, which is like it's mad. But United now have someone who's up front and very, very good in the air. I think Martial's good in the air. Martial showed that he was good in the air with that goal against Istanbul, but Cavani's he's a different he's an out and out number 9, which United needed. And I keep saying the word needed. It's a needed win, needed signing, and good stuff overall. Especially after going 2 goals down. Good stuff in the second half, even good stuff in the first. Just a good game of football.
Yeah,
definitely. Now, it's nice to end one of these episodes on a positive note, isn't it, Emery? Not very often we get to do that, so we'll make the most of this. But yeah, we'll call it a day there then. Ryan, it's been brilliant. Thanks for coming on and talking to us. Look forward to what this month has to bring for us and what you'll have to say about it next month. So yeah, thanks for coming on. Thank you for having me. I'm glad the first time went well enough to be invited on for a second. So
thank you. Really good, man.
Thank you. And as ever, Emery, thank you for joining me and for making things entertaining as ever. And yeah, if you like the video, be sure to like and subscribe. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Manchester United are the champions of Europe